Iscariot Chapter 2. Iscariot hadn't slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair ragged, and his beard unkempt. He stood there naked in the bathroom, gazing at his appearance in the mirror as the water from the sink rushed to fill the bowl, only to find its way circling down the drain. The sun hadn't kissed the earth, but winter's freeze found its wrath during the night. Iscariot, still examining himself, stroked his beard and gave a sombre sigh. He grabbed the clippers from the double vanity drawer and began snipping away at the bird's nest that decorated his face. As he trimmed and cut the overgrown mess on his cheekbones and chin into something more presentable, he threw on the shower to warm himself up from the bitterness of the cold and begin his day. The steam filled up the room quickly, blotting out the reflections in the mirrors and dampening everything within the room. Iscariot let the water hit his face. His thoughts dwelled on Anna. He imagined her every curve, the long, lean muscles of her legs, her toned, caressing arms, her plump, fruity lips. He missed her honey caramel eyes and her soft, wavy hair that always smelled like coconut. He fantasized about her petite peach bottom and her soft, firm breasts. He began to touch himself as he thought of past memories of them in the shower together. He thought of her arms around his neck and her legs behind his back as he held her against the wall of the shower, kissing her lips and thrusting himself inside her as the water fell upon their naked bodies. He thought of the scratches he'd have on his back and the feel of her body as she climaxed. He remembered the bright smile she would have after making love, cute and coy, yet devilishly sexy, and the taste of her lips as she kissed him 1,000 times with joy and love. Iscariot's mind snapped back to reality as he heard the coos of his baby boy. He shut off the water, grabbed the damp towel sitting on the banister, and wrapped it around his waist. He exited the powder room and walked into the blackness of his bedroom. He stopped suddenly. His heart started to race, for his eyes beheld a hooded creature in black whose torn silks waved as if blowing in the wind. Phantom-like it looked, legs apart with one in front of the other. It pointed at Iscariot, and as it did so it seemed to speak, its voice like metal rubbing against metal with the pain of 1,000 men burning in the depths of hell. The windows in the room shattered, and the wind began to howl. The phantom glided towards the child.
"Get away from him!"
Iscariot shouted in fear and rushed towards the wraith. He dashed across the room, jumped on the bed and dived at the hooded creature. But his hands did not grasp the phantom. He hit the ground hard, dislocating his thumb, and when he looked up from the ground, he saw that the room was still dark. The windows were unbroken, and the morning light peeked over the horizon. Hans's cries still echoed in the room. Iscariot examined his aching thumb and quickly pushed it back into place. Rather relieved, he picked up Hans from his bassinet. He looked around his bedroom and saw everything was as it should be. The windows were not broken, the wind was not gusting, and no demon stood before him. Iscariot felt disoriented by what he'd just experienced, and turned on the light to comfort his soul and remove his fear.
"Hey, bud, are you okay?"
he asked his son.
"You slept pretty good last night. What do you want to eat today? Do you want milk? Or milk?"
Hans made small wiggle movements in the air while Iscariot held him in his hands.
"Oh, good choice, Hans," he praised his son.
Iscariot walked downstairs into his modern kitchen, grabbed a bottle from the fridge and placed it on the kitchen counter. A display appeared on the countertop as it read that a baby's bottle sat on top of it. "Slide right to warm," the counter read. The diagram around the bottle had lights for indicators. They spun in circles and turned from blue to green. The text on the counter read, "Complete. Bottle is warm." Iscariot tested the contents on his arm. Just right, he thought, and Hans began to guzzle down the warm milk while Iscariot took a seat at the table with the babe in his arms. Iscariot placed his hand on the table, and another display appeared with options of what to drink and watch. He selected news and coffee. The display moved from the tabletop and projected as a holographic image, as the coffee he requested was being ground and poured into a mug. Talks were still on the treaty and global economies. Hyperinflation and economic collapse dressed the headlines. Iscariot turned down the stress of the news and tried to ease his mind. He finished his coffee as Hans finished his milk, and he walked around the house, patting Hans's back, burping his infant son. As he walked through his home, Iscariot smelled something rather peculiar. He smelled himself first and noticed nothing. He then lifted Hans's bum to his face and cringed.
Oh, boy. Whoa, you stink, Hansy. Let's go upstairs and I'll change you.
Hans was changed and bathed, and Iscariot dressed himself in an all-black suit. The house bell rang, and an image appeared on the wall showing his guests at the front door. "Open," he commanded, and the door slowly came ajar.
"Uncle Isk! Uncle Isk!"
Lorena was calling from downstairs. He could hear her prancing as she climbed the stairs. "I'm right here, Lorena," he hollered back to his niece. Lorena found him and ran to him, hugging his leg tightly, and she began to cry.
"I miss Aunt Anna,"
she bawled, tears falling down her cheeks. Iscariot's throat tightened. "Me too," was all he could let out. He knelt down and hugged her back. "Dry your eyes, little one. Now let's go back downstairs. I know little Hans is going to be glad to see you." Lorena dried her eyes and gave a smile, and Iscariot scooped up his baby boy as the three of them headed downstairs. Robert, Lagertha, and their two infant boys were all sitting in the great room, dressed in all black, holding one another, with sombre expressions on their faces. Iscariot met his brother's eyes, and Robert gave a smile of sympathy.
"Hey, Isk."
Robert rose from the couch with Absalom in his hands and embraced his brother as tightly as he could with two babes between them.
"How are you doing today?" "Best I can, I suppose," Iscariot said. "The pool Nebrone was finished yesterday and the women have been keening all night. As far as I know, the food should arrive as the funeral has taken place and the beer and whiskey should be here around 10 this morning." "You've done good, Isk. I know Lagertha has the games and pipes set to come around 10 o'clock as well, and I've gotten you something for tonight that might perk your spirits," Robert said.
"Uncle Isk, I got something special for you too. Well, it's not really for you, it's kind of for Aunt Anna,"
Lorena said, trying not to hurt her uncle's feelings. "Whatever you have for Aunt Anna, I know she's going to love it, Lorena. You were her favorite niece," Iscariot said.
"I know. She told me all the time, Uncle Isk,"
she said matter-of-factly.
"Can I hold hands now?"
she asked as sweetly as she could. Iscariot smiled. "I'll tell you what, he's a little sleepy right now. Can you sing him a song and rock him softly in the bassinet? He told me he loves your singing voice."
"But, Uncle Isk, I've never sang to him before."
"Of course you have. When Aunt Anna was pregnant, he always heard you through her tummy."
"Oh, yeah. Aunt Anna always said he was dancing when she felt his little feet kicking her,"
she chuckled. Iscariot placed hands in the rocking bed, and Lorena started making up songs as she rocked him like he was made of glass and would shatter with the slightest nick.